Hey, welcome back to my channel, Duct Tape Mechanic. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix a Samsung washing machine that's making loud noises. So if you find this video to be helpful, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more DIY and tinkering videos. Alright, so here is the washing machine in question. It's a Samsung washing machine, a very popular model. But this video is going to be pretty much applicable to any sort of Samsung washing machine sold in the last 10 years or so. I'll put the exact model number in the video for this one, but there's a ton of these variants out there. Basically, I'm going to show you how to fix a Samsung machine that's either making a grinding noise while it's washing your clothes, or it's making a loud noise when it's spinning. That's why I kind of left it open-ended at the start when I said it's making loud noises, because on this particular machine, the clutch assembly, which is often associated with the loud grinding noises, and the transmission bearing, which is associated with the loud spin cycle, is all one unit. So if you replace that, you will solve either of those two issues. So whether it's the loud grinding noise or the loud freight train sound that you hear during the spin cycle. So this is something that you could do yourself and save a lot of money and extend your washing machine's life. So let's get to it. All right, so what we're basically going to be doing is we're going to be replacing the transmission / clutch assembly on this Samsung Active Water Jet washing machine. It's all one unit, as I stated. The very first thing you want to do is go ahead and unplug the machine and undo the water lines and pull out the drain line, because eventually we are going to have to put this machine on its back. Alright, so when you go to the back of the machine, I just kind of flipped it around to give you a better angle. Well, first thing we need to do is remove this back panel. It's just being held on by 5 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And once you remove those 5 screws, you should be able to just pull the back panel right out. You may have to use a putty knife to kind of wedge it in between the interface panel and the back panel to pop it out. But once you get it out, you can just kind of let it dangle. It's being held by this diagnostics port. It's not going to hurt anything if it just kind of dangles from the machine. Then what we're going to do is we're going to be undoing these 2 screws. They're in the wells right here. So one right there and one right there. And don't worry if once you loosen them, if you can't get them out all the way. As long as they're loose, it'll do the trick. So they're just Phillips screws. Then once you have those 2 screws in the wells loosened, you can just go ahead and just put this panel back on. You don't need to put the screws. It'll just kind of keep everything nice and tidy. Alright, then we're going to come to the front of the machine and we're going to take these little covers off. Inside of those covers are also 2 Phillips head screws, which we are going to loosen. And just like the other ones, don't worry if they don't come out, as long as they're loose. And I'll just kind of show you. They're in there, just like that. Alright, so after you've gotten those front screws loose, go ahead and put the top down. Now I do highly recommend taping the lid to this edge right here, because we're going to be lifting up this whole thing, and this is a spring-loaded top and you don't want it to snap back and break. You'll be surprised by the amount of washers that I picked up with just absolutely cracked tops because people tried to do the repair and they didn't know that this thing was spring-loaded, and that's how it happens. And it's almost not even worth it to replace the top. That's how expensive it is. The top taped down, we're just going to be lifting it up, and we're going to use something to kind of prop it up, because this is going to be a little bit lengthy. So I don't know if you're gonna have somebody to help you fold it up the entire time, but I just like to use a piece of wood or something along those lines. Like so. All right, so once we got the top all propped up, we're gonna come and remove this pulsator or wash plate or whatever you want to call it. Just gonna get a flat blade screwdriver and kind of stick it in here and pop up the cap. And there should be a 10mm bolt that's holding on the wash plate. With the bolt removed, you should be able to just pull up on the wash plate and get it out of there. All right, so with that wash plate removed, the next step is to remove this outer plastic rim. So there's a couple of screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then after that we'll just have to be undoing these tabs and it should come right out. All right, so after that, we're gonna be removing the 6 10mm bolts that are holding in the inner tub, I should say. All right, so the next part is probably the toughest part of the whole deal, which is removing this tub nut. Now it's a 36mm nut and it's reverse threaded, which means you have to turn it clockwise to loosen it. Now, if you have a 36mm socket, I just put that on a impact gun and just turn it clockwise to loosen it. Now, if you don't have a 36mm, which I don't have on hand, you're gonna have to put a pipe wrench on here and just whack it. I do recommend letting it marinate in some WD-40 just to make your life easier. Then just giving it a couple of good whacks. Maybe get some ear protection because the echo inside the tub when you're hitting it metal on metal kind of hurts your ears. But you're just gonna have to keep whacking it. And I forgot to mention, as you hit it, you got to kind of put one hand on this piece right here so it doesn't turn. And I just loosened it now, so I'm going to see if I can't just take it off. There we go, like so. And out she comes. Now we should be able to just wiggle this thing up. There we go. It's a good opportunity to also brush this thing down. Look at that gunk buildup. All right, so with all those components removed, we can now move to the bottom of the washer. So I recommend just kind of putting this into place right here and then putting it on its back. All right, so with the machine on its back, the first thing we're going to do is loosen up this shifter arm. To do that, there's a little cotter pin right here, which is going to pull out, and it should free up this shifter arm right here. There we go. It's just being held in with this pin. All right, so after you've loosened up the shifter arm right here, we'll be taking off the rotor part of the motor. So there's two parts, there's a rotor and a stator. So to take off this rotor, we need a 17mm socket and then just take it off. Now there is a lock washer that follows the nut. and then a flat washer that follows that. Alright, so before we remove this stator part of the motor, we do want to unplug it. So I just like to get a little flat bit screwdriver and just pop off that plug. Oh, I was able to do it without the screwdriver. Anyways, after removing the plug, there's 5 bolts that hold it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They should be all 10mm bolts. So with the stator removed, we still have a bunch of 10mm bolts that need to be taken out. So I believe there's about 18 of them that are around the outer perimeter and the inner perimeter, including the 2 that are holding on these plastic brackets. So there's 2 that hold on this plastic bracket and 2 that hold on that plastic bracket. So basically, if you see a 10mm bolt around the transmission area, it needs to come out. So all in all, there is 20 10mm bolts that need to be removed. The good thing is they're all the same size, so you don't have to worry about figuring out which one goes where. Then all you have to do is pull out a couple of these wiring retainer clips right here. And then there's a Phillips screw for the ground as well. Alright, so with those clips removed and that ground screw, which goes right there, out of the way, our transmission should be ready to come out. Now we may be able to just pull this out by getting our fingers down here and pulling it out, or we may have to stand this machine up and then hammer it out with a 2x4 to guide it. Let's see. Well, that one came out pretty smoothly, I would say. But here is the transmission / clutch assembly. So basically, if you're getting that loud noise when this thing is spinning, that has to do with the transmission bearing inside of here. Basically, the seal fails and water gets on top of that bearing and it goes bad and it sounds like a freight train. And opposite of that, if you're getting a lot of grinding noise on the while it's washing, it's due to the clutch assembly. Now, a lot of machines you can just replace the clutch. Unfortunately for Samsung, if you're having that grinding issue, the proper repair is to actually replace the whole transmission. They call it transmission clutch assembly unit right here. What I'll do is I will actually link this in the description of this video, so you can just click on that link. It should also pop up around now in the video, so you can just click on the pop-up as well, and it'll take you to the proper part number, so you can order that. It should run around $200, and if you're doing this repair for $200, it's not bad, because it's going to extend the life of your washer for 5, maybe 6 years. So for $200, that's not bad at all. For the purposes of this video, I am just going to go ahead and put this back on because this is more of a demonstration. I don't have a replacement part for this transmission, so I'm just going to go ahead and be putting this one back on there just to show you how you would install a brand new transmission / clutch assembly. So we'll do that next, and if you want curious about the part number, that is it. But like I said, I will link it and make it as a pop-up ad as well. Alright, so we're going to pretend that this is the new clutch assembly, and we're going to be installing it. Now to install it, there are little tabs or protrusions, whatever you want to call them, on the base of the tub that you want to make sure that these holes go into, and that'll help you just line it up. Obviously, on your new transmission, it's not going to have all this gunk. This washing machine has other issues. So I'm not even going to bother trying to replace the transmission, but this, like I said, this is a demo. So I'm going to go ahead and install that back in there, and like so. So you want to make sure that the tab goes through the middle hole on the transmission, and that'll just prop it up nicely. So after you've got those tabs on there, we're going to go ahead and just redo all that wiring harness work and put the ground screw back on as well. Do is we'll be putting all of the bolts back on. Now I'm going to try to maintain a star pattern just to make sure it goes in properly, but honestly it's kind of hard to do with 20 bolts. So with all of the bolts on there, just be patient and work your way around the perimeter. There's 20 bolts, so it does take some time. And can you just imagine having to, if you didn't have an impact, if you had to do those but with a ratchet, that would be difficult. Anyways, after that, go ahead and put the shifter assembly back on. There's a little hole right there that cotter pin is gonna slide into after you kind of hooked that arm onto there like so, and we'll slide in that cotter pin. Alright, so after attaching the shifter arm, make sure that this piece of the clutch hasn't fallen out. It kind of has a tendency to do so. Mine had fallen out, and I just saw it before I put the stator on. Anyways, the way it goes back is that these thick wide teeth go facing towards the tub like this, and we should be able to just slide onto the shaft like so. And one way you can kind of tell that you've hooked up everything correctly is when you pull up on the shifter, it should just feed in to the teeth of the clutch right here. So we're pulling up on it right here, and you see it's just going in smoothly. Then it disengages and it spins by itself. So to activate the clutch, the shifter pulls this up, and that's how it agitates. Then lets it go when it's spinning. So that's how you make sure you have this piece on there. Now what we're going to do is attach the stator. The best way to do this is remember that the connector is towards the bottom left-hand corner. So it's just kind of position this so it goes into that orientation like so. Then you can go ahead and put the bolts back on. Don't forget to plug it back in as well. Now we're going to put the rotor back on. So this is a strong magnet, so as it approaches the stator, don't be alarmed by the fact that it'll kind of suck it in. There we go. Should click right into place. And then after that, we can put the flat washer back on there, and then the locking washer, and then that 17mm nut. All right, so with the washer once again right side up, and I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the tub. Now obviously if you're doing this, you want to clean this washing machine out. This is a good opportunity, but like I said, this is just a demo. This is kind of a scrap machine due to control board issues, but nonetheless it makes for a good video, because there's almost no videos out there showing how to replace the clutch and gear case assembly on the newer style Samsung washers. So I thought I would do that. But anyways, what we're gonna do is go ahead and put this back onto the transmission spine. And remember, this is this is reverse threaded, so we're gonna go to the counterclockwise direction to tighten it up. Once you've got it the furthest you can get it by hand, just give it a couple of whacks with a hammer. Only real key point to remember when installing the inner tub is that there are little spiky tabs right here, so one here and one across there, that will guide the tub in. So you want to make sure that those tabs go into the inner holes, one right there and one right there, and that will line up all the other holes that you need to just put those 10mm bolts in. This is what I was talking about. So that tab is poking out of there, and that one is poking out of there, and then the rest of the bolts are lined up, or the holes are lined up to receive the bolts. Then we'll go ahead and put the wash plate back on. We're going to go ahead and put this plastic piece on. Just remember that this piece goes where the bleach dispenser is, so bottom or left corner I should say. Now we can put the top back down and remove the tape. Once you've got it kind of positioned where it's supposed to go ahead and put those screws back in. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tighten up those two screws that we left in the wells. If you have a little bit difficulty reaching them, you can just go ahead and just lift up the lid a little bit and get that interface panel kind of out of the way. Then you should be able to just tighten them up really easily. We're going to go ahead and just put that back cover on, so you just put that user interface panel back into its spot right there, and we'll slap the back cover on. Just disregard the fact that this is missing that little metal sheet or metal plate that covers the tub. This is just how I picked it up off the street. That's some of the things you have to deal with when you fix, or when you're fixing used appliances. People try to attempt to repair them and then they forget parts. So that has nothing to do with this repair. But anyways, once you got that display panel on there, you should be able to just put your back cover on there, then put those 5 screws that hold it in place. Alright, so that is how you replace the transmission, aka the gearbox, aka the clutch assembly on a newer style Samsung washing machine. Replacing that, the transmission will resolve pretty much any sort of noise issues you're having with this machine, whether that's a grinding noise or a loud freight train type noise on the spin cycle. Anyways, if you found this video to be helpful, make sure you hit the thumbs up sign.